Everyone. Happy Friday. I know that a lot of you are just getting logged on right now. My name is Jane Thompson. I'm with a Gift for Teaching in Orlando. And I think this is our fourth, it's either our third or our fourth Kids in Need Foundation Network webinar. These have been fantastic. We wouldn't be able to do them without Joel Wright and Pencil in Nashville for letting us use this awesome platform that all of us can be a part of. So for those of you who are joining us and continue to join us, I'm going to introduce our panel, but just a couple of little housekeeping things. So as you come on board, if you want to just add a little hello, and we'll be able to see off and on who has joined the call. And then between Joel and myself, we're going to monitor the chat box so that as you have questions or comments, we'll try and integrate all of those. But so today we're here to talk about something that's really important to all of us, and that is our back to school drives. And specifically how some of us are having to pivot really quickly and figure out how do we offer options for doing a virtual supply drive. So we have some great panelists around the table, and some of whom have experience because they're already doing some aspect of virtual drives, or it's been part of it. I can tell you that at a Gift for Teaching, this is a first for us. So with that, I think with everything else we're all trying to do to just reinvent everything that we have to do to plan for a lot of unknowns in the future. I'm going to introduce my colleague first, Angela Garcia. Angela is our Assistant Director of Community Engagement, and one of the many things that she's responsible for is our back to school drives. And also joining us is Allison Dudash. Allison is with KidSmart, has a wealth of history working with them, and she's overseeing their school drive. She's actually the Director of Procurement and In-Kind for KidSmart in St. Louis. And then finally, we've got Darden from Charlotte, North Carolina, Classroom Central. Darden is the Director of Community Engagement. So I think I want to invite each of our participants. I've asked them to sort of introduce a little bit more about what their back to school drives have looked like in the past. I've asked them to tell us a little bit about, the size of their drives, the time frame they've done them, how many community partners they've had in the past, whether you have a media partner or not. And do your drives generate mostly product? Do they generate financial donations more or less, or a combination? And have your drives seen consistent growth in the last 3 years? So how about Allison, do you want to kick us off?
Sure, happy to. And just to clarify, I don't know if my colleague Mike is on the webinar, but I am one of a team leading this. So we are definitely a team approach, kind of a shared responsibility. So there might be some questions you ask that I can't answer today, but we're happy to get back with you. But KidSmart is excitingly, I helped start we call it Push for Pencils campaign. And when I was a Vista with KidSmart almost 20 years ago, I helped start the campaign, and just this past year rejoined KidSmart. So I was part of our campaign last year, and now obviously going to be a part of our campaign this year. Again, just a little personal background with the campaign for myself and KidSmart. And we, last year, we bring in about 500,000 supplies per year, roughly. And I would say it's probably been fairly, steady. I don't know that it's had much growth over the last few years. We also have had financial donations. That exact number I would have to look up. I know it's been in the thousands and thousands of dollars for us. So we have some people that choose what we call our Push for Change, which is our financial portion, and some that choose to do the supplies, which is the drive. As far as community partners, we've had a few that have been consistent through the last several years at least. those being Starbucks and Walmart. And then we've had a waterway, and those two I know are more national that many of you probably have in your communities. And then we have Waterway, which is actually a car wash company that I think is more a regional location that has participated. And then we've had different grocery store chains that have kind of come and gone. This year we know that Deerberg's, which is again, I think more of a regional partner, is going to do something a little bit later in September at their counter like they did last year for raising dollars, and then they purchase the supplies and bring them to us. And then those are some of kind of we do also typically have a financial institution, and that has varied over the last few years. And we've also had a haircut company that has quite a few locations in town that also has participated as a community partner. And those typically are places to us where anyone in the community can drop off to those. Our Walmart partnership is specifically focused on tax-free weekend, and we have talked to them, and they do plan for us to continue to be able to do that this year, which is huge because that's about a third of the product that we do bring in. And we're able to engage our teachers and other community partners. I think that was all the questions you asked. Yeah. The timeline for our campaign, we've offered really from July through the end of August. This year, we're going to mostly just focus on August, just with the planning time. Frankly, we have had some of our partners already reach out interested to do drives in their buildings as well. And we will obviously allow people if they go beyond the August, but we're really focused on mostly just August this year.
Great, thanks, Allison.
Sure.
Darden, do you want to take us through what you're doing in Charlotte?
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks, Jane. We are, let's just start out with 2019. Typically our time frame for our school tools campaign, we call it our 9 school tools campaign, as we have a media partner with WSOC, which is our channel 9. So we call it our 9 school tools campaign. And the time frame that we will be running the campaign this year will start out July 6th through August the 31st. And with the majority of the partners will probably be participating, from what I've heard so far, will be the first 2 weeks in August, as they have now moved up our start to school to August the 17th. Will be start school this year for us in Charlotte-Mecklenburg. And for last year, we had around, I think it was 255 supply drives and partners. Those drives generated mostly in-kind product. We raised around 1 million, I think it was 34,000 in-kind supplies through that campaign last year. The monetary piece, we raised around $43,000 for the campaign in total. We have seen consistent growth in the program each year, with our media partner obviously being able to expand that growth exponentially around 10 to 20% each year. And we've seen, a great size of growth. I think last year we went from around 800,000 items to 1 million items. And so that was a significant growth for us in being able to expand our supply drive partners as well by a larger percentage. So we're constantly trying to innovate and increase those supply drive partners. It's going to be a little bit of a change this year, of course, as you all know, and looking at more of a virtual aspect this year.
And just one quick question before I go on to Angela, but have you offered virtual drives as an option previous to this year?
We have. So last year we went with You Give Goods, and You Give Goods is a great platform. I believe they give 5% back of the retail value of each product purchase.
You know what? Why don't you hold that for just a second?
Okay,
We're going to
sounds
talk. I think that's what a lot of us want to know more about, is the platforms and why. So perfect. Thanks, Darden. Angela, why don't you tell us what's going on in A Gift for Teaching world?
All right. So our drive typically is about a month and a half long of what we say our official campaign is going to be. But we have partners who typically start it earlier. They really range from anywhere in June to September based off whatever is most convenient for the company. So we'll see them roll in for a couple of months. And we usually have about 100 companies that participate. Every year is, you know, a little bit different, but my goal is always at least over 100. You know, we do have a couple partnerships, big ones that have been for a couple years now at least. So Publix, which I know a lot of you not in the South do not have, but it's our big grocer. They do collect change at the checkout registers for us. Addition Financial, a bank that we have here, serves as a drop-off location. So those are two really big partners. We have worked with Starbucks in the past. Unfortunately, it was not as successful for us. You know, and in talking with Allison and Darden, which we've been actually talking weekly, I'm glad to hear that it has been successful in other places. We do have really great media partners. So we do different interviews with radio stations. We have a great partnership with Clear Channel, and so we get billboard advertising. And we always have, we have a strong partnership with one particular news station who does a lot for us, including hosting our telethon during the drive. And usually we do get some sprinkling of other media channels of coverage for what we do. Our supplies, I know one of the questions Jane asked was for us to see, like, explain any growth or how we've seen it financially and supply-wise. So last year, unfortunately, we saw a decrease in our supplies from the year prior. We collected about just over 514,000 supplies, but we've been seeing an increase in financial over the last 3 years. So this past year, we've raised over $168,000 financially, which has grown significantly because in 2017, it was only $115,000. So that has been on the rise for us. Thank you to our development team. And our supplies 2 years ago were over $675,000. So there was a pretty significant drop to then be 514 last year. And, you know, that's one reason we're, besides everything that's going on in the community, really thinking about virtual is because we do feel like a good portion of that change is just people buying more online now and really getting more involved in using e-commerce as their platform. So.
Great. I know that just, I think I saw, Joel, one of the questions from Amy in Cincinnati is whether we pay for anything towards these media partnerships. I'm just trying to see if that was the question. Yeah, do any of you pay for media for your campaign and or to promote yourself to your partners? So our media partnerships, I mean, Angela, they're all in kind. And
everything we do is in kind, from the news station hosting our annual telethon to the coverage they do. And they're actually usually more involved in, as well as our free store opening day as kind of a culmination to our supply drive, which will look different this year. And then the billboards are all in kind, as well as the radio stations that we work with as well.
Is that the case in Charlotte? And
that is the case in Charlotte. Our media contact is in kind, and they also they reach out to their partners to do traditional school supply in-house school supply drives.
And yes, we've never paid for media for this. I know we haven't had the same consistent partners year in and year out, but we do typically have at least a little bit of coverage if we have, you know, like opening day, Angela mentioned, and sometimes the kickoff of the campaign. So hopefully we'll get at least some coverage again this year. I know there's a lot of opportunity for good news to be shared, and I think we all have a good story to tell.
Yes, we do. The one thing that happens during election years like this is, you know, a big part of what our CBS affiliate does for us is they run PSAs. And during election years, PSA is, there's not much they can offer. So I think we can keep moving forward. And I think the platform issue is probably something that everyone on the call really wants to hear more about. So I had given our panelists a few questions before. Joel, I don't know if you want to put up the next question in terms of what does everyone want to know most from the panel about which platforms do you have or are using and why. You know, maybe think about some of the pros and cons of what you looked at and why you moved to one from the other. What sort of costs are involved in creating a virtual drive strategy? And how many of you are using an outside vendor to host your drive or have developed something on your own site? So why don't we open it up? And Allison, you want to start?
Sure, and I think Darden and Angela are going to have more to offer in the vendor side of things. We have a volunteer that still helps us in big ways with our technology, and he actually created our Push for Pencils website, which I can share with everyone. It's kidsmartpushforpencils.org. Big note though, it has not been updated for this year's campaign, so just know that whatever you see is not up to date and whatnot. But that is the website, and decision we've made as far as having something else created, a lot with just resources of time and people and cost. So he is going to be updating that for us as he does every year, and we will use that, you know, platform per se as our tool for this year.
So it's really, it's sort of a customized link into your own website, but it has its own standing page.
Yes, and you can, you know, you can check it out and certainly ask, you know, reach out to us, ask any questions if there's anything you like or see, want to know more. I mean, teams can sign up on there and be tracked on there, how much they're raising and what they're doing, who's involved. And then we can highlight our community partners and show a map of where those locations are and accept the financial donations through that with our website. So those are kind of some of the features that we know are important and that we'll use for this year's campaign.
Great, thank you, Allison. So Darden, how about in Charlotte?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and kind of continue what I was speaking about earlier, what our 2009 campaign looked like. A lot of what we raised with the 1,034,000 items came in a traditional, in a way of in-house barrels, being on site in the locations, and obviously that is going to be a little different this year. We put out a survey to all our past participants to engage their thoughts of what does work look like, what does work life look like for you, and obviously with we anticipated what they were going to come back with, and it was everybody is virtual right now and will continue to be virtual. I want to say about 80% of the responses where we're leaving, we will not be coming back into the office until after Labor Day in September, and some coming back to say they're not going to be back into the office until the beginning of 2021. And so that was a great piece for us to learn a little bit about, okay, what are our transitions this year, and how do we want to approach the virtual aspect. Last year we used You Give Goods. Great organization, great company to partner with, great customer service. They give back 5% of the retail value on every purchase. I believe we had about 25 participants last year host the drive through the virtual site, which resulted in about 26,000 items from the site itself, which was a low percentage of what we raised, which is about 2.5% of what we raised last year in goods. But that being said, obviously we're going to be flipping the script this year, and it's going to look more of a virtual world for us. So we've been testing out various platforms across, do include QGive, One Calls, Right Gift, which I believe Angela has tested out as well, and and a couple other ones. And
Darden, one of our guests asked you to repeat the name of the current platform you're using again.
Sure. The previous platform we were using was You Give Goods.
You Give Goods. Yes.
You Give Goods. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And that was the one we used last year. And this year we're testing out QGive, which is QGIV.com. And then One Calls, looked into them as well. Price-wise, what you had mentioned before is, sorry, next page. So QGive is a great platform we're currently demoing right now. Great opportunity to work with them. Jennifer there was able to set us up where we can create our own demo and platform, and if we like what we end up creating, then we can move forward with them. The cost for QGive is great because it's a month-to-month or a quarterly fee. I believe the quarterly fee was around $199 a month, and then the month-to-month, if you want it, was about $299 a month to utilize their platform. And that is the only cost you incur besides the credit card processing fee, which was higher on the higher end of 4.95% plus 30 cents each transaction. But that is the only cost. So there's obviously no hitting fees of what they tell you, of course. So hopefully that is the case, of course. And then One Calls was a little larger expense. Well, I should say very large expense. They have a $2,000 setup fee for their platform. And then if you raise around, you get a threshold of about $150,000 to raise, and that costs you about $4,000 to use their platform in addition to the $2,000 setup fee. They seem like they're a great organization. If that's something that you're looking to raise a lot of dollars and utilize their platform on an annual basis, that $4,000 would be if you were to utilize their fundraising platform each year or for the full year as well. And so this year we are going to be leaning towards probably QGive, more than likely more of a monetary drive to be able to stretch our dollar as much as possible, turning $1 into $9 and so forth to get as many pencils and our 9 school items that we will be highlighting this year on the site. So it will be more of a monetary drive in that aspect, and then reaching out and purchasing supplies through our third-party vendor.
Okay, excellent. Angela.
All right, so this year will be our first year doing a virtual drive, but there has been no shortage of research on these different platforms and what we might use. And I saw this question pop up also. Darden mentioned You Give Goods, and that was actually the first one that we were considering because they were actually, a company was going to come here for a trade show in March and use their platform to collect supplies for us. So that was going to be our trial run. Unfortunately, that got canceled, so we didn't actually get to work with You Give Goods. But the biggest con, and really the reason that I've kind of took them off my list, is just because of the prices of the product. The prices were just a bit more expensive than we, thought our donors would want, knowing that they can get it cheaper elsewhere. So while they were great to work with initially, there was no shipping, there were no fees, we did get cash back. From the donor's perspective, we thought it was going to be a little bit too much. Darden mentioned Right Gift. At this point, that it really is kind of our second choice if our first route doesn't pan out. Right Gift so far has been pretty great because their prices are lower, not as low obviously as we purchase for, but their prices are lower. Everything is customizable to just the items you want. Companies can just share your page, and when they click specifically on one button to share it, it then tracks everything from their company. So that way every organization can see what it is that their individuals who use that link donated. So it's very easy in that way. It seems very turnkey. not much work on our part, and a good thing for us as well is it does integrate with Donor Perfect. So we are able, which is what we use on our fundraising side, so we are able just to kind of upload all those donors into that program. A couple of cons that we really had with that were shipping. There is a shipping cost, and it's only free over $75, but they were working with us to get that a little lower. They're also offering pre-assembled kits potentially, in which case if those kits were purchased, shipping would be free. So they've really been working with us on that. So if anyone is interested in that, I would say definitely research, and I'd be more than happy to introduce you specifically to who we've been working with. They have been really great. At this point, our first choice and what we are moving forward with, fingers crossed that everything fully pans out next week, is actually to work with our local vendor here, in which we oftentimes purchase products from. So their website is set up just like any other e-commerce store where there are products you can add to cart and check out and pay like that. So we are working with them just to have them set up a page for us that has only the products we want on it. We can remove the shipping feature because they won't ship anything. We would just collect it all from them or have it delivered at the end of our campaign. And we would customize the header of the website to be specific to our campaign. So we would be then giving all of our business to a local partner of ours that we have been working with for years, and really be able to highlight them as a supporter, and be getting things at a much cheaper rate. It'll be slightly more expensive than what we purchase it for, but they do have to factor in the addition of credit card fees since everyone would be buying it from them individually. So that is the route we're working on taking. We're just waiting to finally see if all the coding for the website and the adjustments that we need can be finalized soon. And then, like I mentioned, if not, Right Gift is going to be our second choice. Anything else?
That's a great summary. There is a question on the chat, but I wanted to just, Allison, so would you say on your virtual site, you're driving people more to purchase product or make financial donations, or both?
I mean, both, hopefully, but I know initially it was set up more as a financial option because we have had the, physical drive with many companies. And just to clarify, I guess earlier I talked about our community partners, and we do have usually 100 or more, give or take, businesses that also are doing campaigns in their buildings. That number for us this year is still unknown, but we have had like Nestle Purina, one of our big community partners, reach out recently, and a few others like a physical therapist organization that has several locations. So just to clarify on that too. But yes, typically it's been more of our financial component which is the push for change to the physical drive. So this year we're hoping to kind of have some of both.
So, Jane, can I add one thing? Oh,
yes,
sorry.
Of course.
I was just going to add one thing about the prices because I know that's a big concern. So for those interested, Right Gift, they use Zuma Office, so ZUMA Office, and that's their vendor. So if you're curious about prices, you can look on that. That way you don't need to go through the whole Right Gift process. You can take a look. And then I'm so sorry, but one thing I forgot to mention was that another option we considered was actually making our own store, our own e-commerce site, having the images, the prices, donors purchase it, and then we on the back end go and use those funds to purchase through one of our vendors. We decided not to choose to go that route because we, at this point, did not want to get into the business of working with credit card processors and working with those fees. We just sought credit for this first year, and we have a lot of other things going on, as you all do. The maintenance of that website and just having someone available for any IT issues and tech, we wanted to eliminate some of those potential problems, at least for this first year.
So I'll just make one quick distinction in what we all just heard from the panelists is that Charlotte's virtual drive is really going to drive financial donations, where the model we're thinking of is really driving product donations. But we are still going to try and encourage financial donations in other ways. There was another question Monica, I think, asked whether you all have compared, like, how does the product rates or costs compared to what Kids in Need charges, was just one of the questions. Let me just make sure. Are the prices on the sites Angela and Darden mentioned comparable with the prices available through Kids in Need?
That's why I mentioned the Zuma. I will say, I think if I remember, a pack of Crayola crayons was like $1.70, which obviously is much more expensive than what we purchase, but comparable potentially into what a donor would be if they were just going into a store and purchasing crayons.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I think that, Angela, we talked about the gift goods. They're a little higher priced than what Right Gift and Zuma office was.
Yes, yeah, that was mentioned.
And Jane, if you don't mind elaborating on the oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, please.
Oh, I was going to elaborate on the QGive 2 with the financial dollars with the platform that we're looking at. It is the virtual platform will have options for you as the fundraiser to when somebody makes a donation to you, they're making a donation of $5 to purchase 5 to 10 packs of pencils, and a $10 donation will get you a bundle of X amount of stuff. So we're putting out there what the purchasing will be. So it won't only just be dollar. They'll know what they'll be purchasing and what we'll be receiving from our end.
Okay, that's
Supply-wise.
interesting. So I think we've kind of covered where there are shipping fees or user fees involved. Unless anyone else has questions, I think Jessica, Zoom is fairly comparable to both Kids in Need prices. Amazon's a little bit less right now, is what she commented for all of us. So the next portion of the conversation was really going to be, let's sort of get into, why we're all here and what some of the biggest concerns all of us have for our virtual drives. And, not to state the obvious, but just in everything we've heard already, we know that there's a couple of very large partners. I probably don't even have to tell you which one here in our community has been closed for months. Was our largest back to school drive. They're not going to be back and participating anytime soon. So obviously we're concerned about product donations, maybe even lag time in receiving product because of how we're all going to be conducting our drives differently. Sort of manpower concerns around volunteerism decreasing. But is there anything else any of you would want to add to, for the panelists to sort of open up those discussions?
Sure, I'll start on that
Okay.
real quick. I think you hit it right on the head with the last comment there, volunteerism. We typically we have a large amount of supplies that come through our warehouse in August. And that was one of our main questions of concern on the survey that we sent out, is when will you be back in the office, or what will volunteerism look like for your company in the next X amount of months? And right now it looks like we won't probably get groups of volunteers coming in at the very least until September, or even probably farther away from now. So bringing goods into the warehouse right now will probably be a team effort for about 2 or 3 or 4 of us, separating all those supplies and working probably countless hours, of course. So that's probably one of our largest concerns, and is prompting us to move to more of that financial aspect of a virtual drive this year, and to be able to just like Angela had mentioned, to be able to receive that product in bulk will be a big advantage for all of us this year, knowing that that manpower will not be available. That being said, you know, I'm not going to deny anybody that wants to host a traditional drive and give them a barrel immediately and take it right to their office for them. So, you know, any way that we can, you know, explore all avenues this year is going to help us out tremendously, because the need is not going to go away. It's only going to get larger for us.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously with that said, we're going to explore all those avenues, and we do have people that are expressing that they would still love to host those traditional in-house in-kind drives too, which is great to hear. But the volunteerism is probably one of my biggest concerns this year, just being able to move that much product without those corporate volunteers.
Great.
And I guess to that note, do you mind if I just add
Yeah,
on?
please.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We know one conversation that the three of us have had over the course of the last few weeks discussing our virtual drive is conversation of building or purchasing like backpacks, or as Angela might have mentioned, kits, because unknown to all of us still at this time, I think, I don't know that any states have announced what they're going to do for school. If they are virtual at-home distance learning, that might be also a good option to take, because then the supplies are also coming in the way that they can exactly go out to our students or teachers, however you're distributing them to food hubs or otherwise. But
Yeah.
that's something we've talked about, but hasn't been necessarily brought up real specific of the why. I guess we would consider that.
Yeah, that's a very good
Which
point.
is one reason why, you know, I think I personally am so excited about a virtual drive this year, just like Darden mentioned, because it will be coming in bulk. The other reason really for working with a local partner is that if we are halfway through the campaign and internally feel like we need those supplies as soon as possible, we do have that flexibility to get those supplies early, and then at the end of the campaign, get the remaining amount. So that is going to be a huge pro for us with working with this local vendor. In addition, what Allison mentioned, our vendor also offers pre-made kits already. So we might find that we do need most of the things already assembled because we won't have the volunteer power. You know, one of our partners alone gave 6 3-hour volunteer shifts just to sort their drive normally on a daily basis, on a yearly basis. So that's just unfortunately not something we will have the capacity to do this year.
Yeah. Anything else that you would want to add to the conversation before we open it up to more questions?
I would say also with these virtual drives that we're leaning towards this year, our main goal is kind of trying to identify ways to increase competition within the corporations themselves to promote more giving. And that being said, kind of utilizing gamification as much as possible for ABC Corp to compartmentalize their drives and then have that competition within their drives as well. So that's definitely something that we've been trying to research as much as possible to see how we can get most of our companies involved in that virtual aspect. And working from home. And then obviously something that connects with social media is going to be a very big key this year for that platform. And then, you know, obviously when you're looking at a platform, having the processing fees option covered by your donor as well is big. And then one thing as well with volunteers not being around, and we have a lot of volunteers that do data input for us, is any kind of integration with your CRM. We use Razor's Edge on our end, and that's a huge selling point for us as well.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point.
Can I add to that too? I think there is an opportunity. In fact, I just met with a donor, one of our financial donors last night, And he was asking, you know, what is our gap this year going to be already? What is it? You know, let him know. And I think that reminded me that there are still a lot of people that want to help. And so there's a lot of opportunity for us to, again, share our story and for us not to give up hope that it can be possible. We can, you know, I know we were talking about goals on one of our weekly calls, and we might be adjusting those, but I think that as much as we're able to share our story, there's a lot of people that want to help, and especially now when people aren't physically connected in the same ways, utilizing, like you said, Darden gamification or other ways to really try to help these companies build and keep their company culture too, because this campaign for a lot of, I'm sure, of our partners is a part of like what their employees expect, you know, and part in giving is so much becoming a part of a company culture. So just, I don't know, a little encouragement, I guess, if nothing else, that there's opportunities too to be had, and seek those out, especially, you know, those that are bringing those to your attention.
That's a really great.
One thing I'll add to that, and again, I've talked about this with, you know, Darden, one of the things some of you all do in your different centers, I know, is that competition throughout the whole campaign. So companies can see kind of live where they are in their donations. For us, that's not something we were looking for when we looked at different platforms, because we have never done that. It's always been at the end of the campaign, we calculate everything, and then people want to know who the top 5 are, but we don't do it through the campaign. So that's something to keep in mind if that is something you do. There are certain platforms that's not going to be an option for you, and then other platforms who do that. So QGive is one of them, Darden, I believe, that does
Correct.
the competition.
Correct.
Yeah, that's good. And I'll just sort of add, you know, on the, you know, being optimistic side of things, our local Second Harvest Food Bank they're total rock stars. They're just one of the best food banks and, you know, around. Their virtual food drives have been off the scale this year so far. Obviously, food is a very tangible and emotional issue, but I think we need to remember how much our mission is also going to just reverberate in such a big way, especially with everyone having experienced what just went on with distance learning and having a lot more just being so much more aware of how teachers rock and how much the need is going to exist. So I think, you know, if we can all tap into that, that's going to be important. So are there any other questions or things that people want to hear from the panel about right now? That means panelists, you must have done a very good job.
While we're waiting to see, I'm sure someone's going to come up with a question, but I'll also just talk a little bit more about our partnership with Walmart, because again, knowing that they're pretty much in most every community, and tax-free weekend, which I think was Darden, you said you don't have tax-free weekends, so maybe some communities don't have that. Not that you couldn't do it another weekend back to school, but that really has been a great partnership, and they obviously are going to remain open. I think they probably are still open, right, in all of your communities. So just looking to, if it's not Walmart, you know, obviously grocery stores or gas stations, certain partners that are going to be open, and maybe they haven't participated before, but maybe this is an opportunity for them to also think about giving back or inviting their customers to give back, or both. That's just, I guess, more food for thought. I mean, we know that, you know, those companies have done quite well, you know, financially and otherwise. And so is there, you know, they might be more inclined also to be wanting to give back, knowing that they've been, you know, obviously important to the community regardless, but that might be a good avenue to explore for any in-person drop-offs or partners. Obviously, places that sell school supplies are also, you know, great places to seek out if you haven't already for some of the tangibles, in addition to the virtual or however else you're doing your campaign.
So Allison, Amy from Cincinnati's just asked, what does that Walmart partnership look like? Maybe just, so what happens on tax-free weekend?
Sure. So in this year, we're still finalizing this exactly the how, but we have in the past had teachers sign up, and we've had anywhere from last year, I think was one of our smaller years, we had 5 Walmarts locally that said yes. Basically, the market manager assistant is who our contact has been, and now thankfully we have a market manager on our committee for in kind, which is fabulous.
Wow.
He's open a lot of doors, right? But there's, and we are close to Walmart headquarters, which obviously probably helps us too. But nonetheless, we partner with those market managers or assistants to say, yes, we're going to be able to be in 5. And we've been up to 20, and it looks like we're going to have at least 10 to 12 this year, which will be great. And then we do a sign up, and teachers in the past, which a lot of them expect and get excited, they sign up and will actually be allowed to stand outside the Walmarts within so many feet. They've always had that rule, and we're still learning what that's going to be. And maybe they won't be able to be physically manned in the same way, but they will hand out little like quarter sheets that we print up that highlight the Fab Five supplies that we need. And they really promote, giving to the customers as they're coming in and thanking them as they're going out. And so many people, participate in it because it's easy, it's top of mind, and the teachers are there. And I've witnessed some teachers, connecting with even students at times or other, which is cool to see some of the connections that the teachers are making. Some of them are in the communities of students we serve even, which is also phenomenal to see that some of them are willing to, help out what, grandparents saying, yeah, I want to help some more kids or whatever it might be. But the other thing is, and we talked about having this year, if they're able to put some of those supplies near the cash register, obviously that always helps, and get the cashiers on board, for a point of sale. Hey, would you like to support and, buy a pack of crayons? And their prices obviously are usually pretty great. So, people are a lot of times inclined, I can, donate $1, essentially buy this. And so did I answer everything? Probably talk more than you needed me to.
No, I think that was good. I think that's what our experience has been with Walmart's, is you've really got to find that in with some of the local, market managers, and the fact that you've got one on one of your committees must be incredible. Our situation with Walmart has sort of changed. They seem to have changed their local, they're really supporting Second Harvest and Feeding America in a huge, huge way. So that seems to have kind of taken over in our market. I might just share with you Publix, there's probably a number of you on this call that much like some of you who have partnerships with Kroger. So one of the, we've been really lucky. Publix has made us the beneficiary of their Tools for Schools campaign for the last 3 years now, Angela, I think, which really was a big contributor to our supplies growing as well. But every year they keep sort of changing how they do it. And this year, it's really going to change, because it used to be very much like one of you mentioned, where as people are asked to give, to their campaign, they then take all the funds raised and leverage thereby with their vendors, and you get the product, which has been awesome. They are this year not going to ask anyone, well, they're not going to do the purchase the product piece. They're going to give their partners gift cards representing what was generated in their markets. So it's not going to be the same. We won't have the same leverage with those gift cards. So for those of you who haven't heard that, it does sound like they will do that in every market they're in this year. And part of their rationale has been they can't logistically manage, because they're dealing with raking in so much money and being so busy and sorry. But yeah, So I think there's a couple of other questions. I'm just going to open the chat box for a second. Alicia wanted, she's more info on gift right, please. What was the issue with shipping fees? Our information was that orders over 49 are free with an average cart of $116. Does this sound around what you learned? Or does the shipping fall on the resource center? No, I think it falls on the donor, right?
Yeah, so for us, it is, or what we were told is that shipping is free over $75. And if not, I went through and tested it, and shipping was about $8.99, which she had thought they could get down, and I kind of basically said, we're not doing it if it's $8.99, because I think in the world of so many people being used to free shipping with Amazon, and us wanting to be able to have a $5 and $10 option with $8.99 shipping, that just wasn't something we were going to ask the donors to incur. But it did not fall on us. Where the shipping changed, she did say that it was an average cart of about 160 is what I thought I heard of what they see with their other drives and their other partners. I know for us, that is not the case for our donors. On average, one person is not spending $160 worth of school supplies. So I'm not sure, whatever organizations are getting that, that's awesome. But with that being their average, we know that that's not ours. And then the kits that they were going to put together for us that work with their vendor were anywhere from $35 to $75, depending on the grade level. And anything for that, the shipping would be free. So even if it was the $35 kit. Those kits actually looked really great. She sent me the list and the image of what would go in it, and they were very, I would say, really worth that $35 for the kit. And then the fact that there'd be no shipping was one really pro. The fact that they were able to work with us to offer that. So I think that that's a great route, definitely, for some people.
So Howard in Rochester, hi. I hope that answered your question as well about where you can offer pre-built kits through your drives. It looks like some of these do offer that. And I'll just add to the conversation, Angela hasn't brought it up, but the local vendor that we use and have used for years is called Backpack Gear. And they have historically worked with others in the network around the country over the years. So they do and could be considered another source for you to check out. So I'll just throw that out there too.
Yeah. And if you look at their website, they do also have prepackaged kits as well that you can see on there that can be purchased. And those are also, I think, there's one for like $8, $10. So they are very well priced.
Yeah. Great. I'm going to pull up the participant list and see. Got a nice turnout here. Lots of people. Any other questions from the group, or did our team do a good job of? Yeah, I think you're right, Joel. So if you'd like, as you know, Allison indicated, and Darden and the rest of us, some of us are still developing our tools, but I know we'll be very willing to share. Maybe what we can do as a quick follow-up is just resend the links to all the different platforms we talked about today. And, like Angela mentioned, any contacts we have within those companies that we would recommend our friends to reach out to. So